For today, what I'll be going through is that we're going through taxonomies, more specifically, what is it and how is it utilized within our different organizations. In the past 3 years, we've been building this out and we've been helping brands implement it. And we've been working with brands to understand how the taxonomies are built locally as well. For this quick introduction to taxonomies, I'll just be going through what is it, what is taxonomy, how is it applied, and different ways to think about it. So it's simply put, a taxonomy is a science of classification. It's just the science of classification. In the context of fashion, taxonomy is a way that we categorize the articles of clothing, of shoes, of bags, based upon their attributes. So most taxonomies, right, they start by categorizing the article types, such as the most basic one, which is outerwear, tops, dresses, pants, shoes. So the main categories. And then on a slightly deeper level, you have things like the pattern, the materials, the length, the sleeve, the neckline, the function, the waist, the back design, and a lot more. Then on the deeper level to that, you have the exact different conventions that may separate the two items away from each other, which may be a very distinct attribute of the product. It may be a very distinct feel of the product. It is a classification that can be given, not just based upon what you see of the product, but what you feel of the product as well. So that is the science of classification around taxonomies. So now to get into why we're utilizing it, right? We have to understand the problems that it solves first. Every brand or every company that utilizes taxonomies will go through two different routes. The first route is that you will start naming the product based upon the historical experience that we have built up within the organization. So initially, someone will come in and will say, this is the way that this product should be categorized. And along the way, that form of categorization is what the future team members would also categorize it for. And that is done manually. The problem here is that when every brand has a slightly different way to categorize the product, or every country has a slight different nuance to the way that they describe the product. So for example, look in the left-hand side picture. If I'm searching for, let's say, a duvet coat, when the website has classified this as a down jacket, my search returns will not appear, which means the product that I'm looking for will be showcased as unavailable within the store itself. Every single brand has a different way of categorizing their product. And because it is done in a different convention, the way that a consumer will approach it, or way that a consumer wants to approach it, isn't available, simply because the naming convention that the consumer uses may not be the same naming convention the brand uses. On the brand side, when the brand wants to do a comparison, let's say between their duvet coat against a competitor's duvet coat, because the competitor says it's a down jacket, our ability to do any form of comparisons is quite lacking. Traditionally, when we are done with business calls to basically do competitor shopping, we are able to eyeball the products and say, this is a duvet coat, this is a down jacket. Depends upon the way we classify it. But with the sheer number of SKUs available and how it is sorted on different sites, the ability to do that has been greatly diminished. Now combine that with human error, right? Because I may consider this a duvet coat, and that is basically based upon my experience. And maybe let's say Australia, or let's say Malaysia, Indonesia, or the US, the different ways to classify it again. I may not be able to classify it based upon the way that my brand wants to classify it because of the experience I've come with as well. Also, I can be incorrect. I will never categorize down to the specific details. So there's a few different problems that starts occurring. That goes to the next question, how do we solve this? So when we invented the computer and the internet, the one thing that has changed back then is that we're able to compute a lot more than we have been able to compute in every generation before that, or every year before that. And we can do it very efficiently because we're able to standardize the convention of naming around different attributes and products. So then it goes to the next question, which is, what can we do exactly? This current revolution is the era that represents the fundamental change in the way that we live, the way that we work, and the way that we relate to each other. It's a chapter of human development. Now, there is a distinction between the human development as well as the big data aspect of it. But it's basically enabled us to have extraordinary technology that is able to advance the way that we categorize, that we process data. And the end result is the ability to output such minuscule forms of taxonomies or attributes or classifications that allows us to make very in-depth analysis around the product to what we're both selling, searching for, or to do a comparison against. So big data, right, like the name suggests, is defined as data that is just huge in size. For fashion, we can populate this sector with the category, pattern, length, color, even materials, or the products we want to look at. and classify this automatically using things like image recognition or natural language processing. This solves the first part, which is basically the problem around human categorization. And the second part is simply looking at such large amounts of data, right, which is over here, and reclassifying this down to its very singular attributes. Now, when we can do that, we're able to identify the similarities between the products. So you can see that basic taxonomies allow us to both identify the products to what we're selling, to do a comparison against, to help both the consumers and ourselves understand what we're selling. But also importantly, if we know that we're selling these two dresses, they may look very different from each other, but we're able to find the similarities based upon the attributes, based upon the taxonomies that we have given it to these two products. We can deep dive, we can segment the products down to the details we require based upon what are the use cases we want to apply towards it. In order to achieve something like this, a good taxonomy is necessary to determine the accuracy of the big data behind this. So the classification around these kind of products is determined very strongly based upon the initial data sets that has been given to the products itself. This is because there are numerous synonyms, as you saw 3 slides back, around a product or any piece or any article of clothing or any article of a bag or a shoe. A good taxonomy will take into account all these synonyms and therefore provide accuracy in data categorization. Now, which goes into the artificial intelligence aspect. How much data and how accurate the taxonomies we can provide will then decide how accurate the results come out to. So an example here, on the typical basis, before and after event of taxonomies, is that we'll classify this t-shirt as a white t-shirt short sleeve U-neck plain. The function of taxonomies or efficient taxonomies is to provide much deeper level labeling towards these products, which can then be utilized to have a better understanding to what we sell for ourselves, what our competitors are selling, what our consumers are searching for, and to provide the information that our consumers want when they want it, when they're searching on our store. With the huge shift towards e-commerce, the biggest problem that a consumer faces today is the ability to find the product that they want based upon the language they want to find the product on. So taxonomies also uses and organizes raw data into suitable categories. So I'll just take a pause over there just to give you guys a thought around that. Any subsequent data analysis becomes much more nuanced because all the data is integrated into deep classifications at every level of the analysis. So just one example, right, of the use case taxonomies is the ability to look at trade performance by attributes, patterns, or materials, which directly impacts the way a fashion brands categorizes their designs and product assortments. So we had a question come in to us previously. One of the brands that we know could always always understand that their red color sleeveless maxi dress sold very well. But beyond that, they weren't sure what to rebuy. So when they were doing their budgeting, they would put in such a large amount of budget to the red maxi sleeveless dress, right? But they weren't able to go down into the specific product attributes, which determine what products or what styles of this red color maxi dress should they actually be repurchasing or basically buy a bigger budget upon. So their budget was affected because of the level of attribution they could give to the products. Which goes to the next part. Which part can taxonomies be useful for? So in summary, taxonomies can be utilized within the entire supply chain. It just depends upon what are the use cases that we want to approach at the very beginning. Let's just go to a very quick example within things like product intelligence or trend forecasting. Simply by being able to drill down the type, the color, the size to a much greater granularity allows us to understand what red color maxi dress should I be repurchasing. Should I buy the ones that, let's say, has a floral print? Should I buy the ones with a tint of, let's say, yellow? Should I buy the ones, let's say, with asymmetrical prints behind it? So what attributes of the red color maxi dress should I be actually looking at to repurchase? So it helps in the experience of the consumers. It helps in the experience of the brands. It helps in budgeting. It goes across the full supply chain, and we have to think very deeply. How do we start integrating this more deeply within our organization, and which teams are responsible for this? Now, there are two immediate benefits, right, of applying taxonomies. First, from the consumer perspective, which means that the better our taxonomies means the better they can discover and search for our products. Whether we think of that in the perspective of a search or in terms of a filter, they can find what they want with less time and effort based and utilize the language they want to utilize. Instead of, let's say, I may say this is a down jacket and my customer has such a down jacket, I can say it's a let's say a duvet coat, but it's giving that experience back to the consumer for them to decide how they want to approach it. The second one is to basically apply more accurate taxonomies in the way that we want to purchase products into the way we identify what products we should even be purchasing. So we have previously spent our days scouring the internet to research new upcoming fashion trends. We can even cut the research time down simply by choosing the attributes we want to find. Taxonomies is a very it's been around in the fashion industry for a very long time, since the very start of it. But the application of it is still very new to almost all brands. For the purpose of today, for the purpose of this, it's just to give an introduction around taxonomies. The use cases are infinite, which you'll see in the upcoming presentations, whether it's through things like product matching, whether it's through identifying better merchandising, whether it's through utilizing in marketing. It can open up the different perspectives to what we can utilize for taxonomies. And with that, thank you.